Okay, now we're going to learn how to make our map look pretty. Right now, it's pretty basic looking with just our terrain walls. So we're going to add some props to beautify this. Props are fairly easy to use. Just make sure you have the props tab selected. You'll be presented with a list on the side here that shows you all the available options. Now I want to put rock walls on the side, so I could look through this list by scrolling to find what I wanted, or I could type in search, and I'm just going to type in rock, and I'm going to select the very first one and see what we got here. We've got some rocks here, and you could paste them out here by holding down shift and selecting, and there you can see it. Now, once they're pasted, you can take this big circle and use that to rotate the prop around. You can also raise and lower the height by dragging these arrows and move using these axis arrows. Okay, so this is not the kind of rock I want to use, so I'm just going to delete it. And let's see if I can find a different type of rock. And let's see. The rock walls are usually pretty good. Let's see what we've got here. Let's see if this fits. Whoa, that's really big. Yeah, we don't want that. This might work. Yeah, that might actually work. There we go. There's usually multiple variants of the same rock nearby in the list. So, like these LG ones are probably most likely the same size. Yep. So, I'm gonna take and move that in there. We're basically just hiding that jagged terrain geometry. I'm just going to go through and put walls all the way along everywhere on here. Now another thing you can do in here that is kind of useful if you want to change, you can tint these models by using this color feature. Right now there's only white, but you can hit this plus button and you can add a tint to the prop if you want. Obviously green is probably not the most appropriate color, but I could go for maybe something that's a little more brownish. Like there, if you want to use that. And it creates this drop down color for the color you created, so you could go back and you can hold down Control and multi-select these and then apply the color to them. Now you can also copy and paste props by holding down the Control key and Control plus C to copy and Control plus V to paste, just like in a word processor. And that's going to copy the tint as well. Now when you shift and drop, it's spawning a new one, so the color is not, it's not copying, so the color is not going to be present. Sometimes using the shift spawn mode is a little bit easier than using the copy and paste mode. It's really going to be what's going to be more convenient for what you're trying to do. Now you can also multi-select the whole thing, copy and paste, and then you can rotate, and you see how each one is rotating independently. We may not necessarily want that, so what you can do is you can click this world rotation, and now it'll rotate all the selected meshes together. And this way you can get a lot more work done faster. Now you'll notice I'm having trouble rotating this simply because the rotating tool is underneath the terrain. There's a couple ways you can fix this. You can use the slider here in the interface to just take and change that around. Or what I typically do is I just raise it until that's visible and then shrink it back down again. So I'm going to go through this map and fill in as much as I can. I'm going to fill in all the walls. One thing that can be done to make this process a little easier is you can use this ignore height feature. And what that will do is, let's say I place a piece down. Now you notice when I move, it's going to, all right, let's see. When I move, it's going to hug to the terrain. Now, that's a neat feature, but it may actually be detrimental to what you're trying to do, especially with like putting the rocks up against the cliff edges. You can turn on this ignore height, and it will cause it to ignore the height when you're moving things around. So that might be helpful. Okay, so I've completed this, and I've gone through and tinted all of the edges as well here. And now let's move on to coloring the ground underneath. So typically when I tend to color terrain, I tend to try to do it in kind of a fractally pattern, just to give it some variance in the way it looks. To do this, we're going to use the texture tab, and the texture tab has a set of preset textures in here. Now, you'll notice these all look very similar, but they're all tinted different shades. So if I went in, this is the, if I painted in here, this is the same as what's currently already there. I'm going to increase this brush size. If I go up one, you'll see that it's slightly brighter. If I go up one, it's brighter. It's brighter. And, you know, all the way up to, and this one is darker. Now, you could take and holding down the control key, select multiples, and then it's going to create like a scatter version of this. Here, let's try this. It's going to do a mixture of all these together. We also have some grass colors. Maybe some asphalt. So like I said, I tend to do kind of a fractal pattern with this stuff. So I'll take and grab like the next one up, and I'll just start making some splotches. And I'm only going to focus on the walkable terrain. So we're going to go like that. Just going to make splotches all around here, because you just want some variance in the shade of the ground. I'm shrinking the brush a little bit. And then maybe, all right, I filled out all the kind of the splotches. I'm going to focus on just this area here and kind of give you an idea of what I'm going for. I'm going to take and make a real small brush and just kind of splotch out some, kind of extend that out a little bit, make it kind of splotchy. Stipple in some, I just want to make it not look so pristine. And then I'm going to go up to the next level and add in this center area here. And go up to the next level and add in some here. And what I'm going for is I just kind of want to make it look like it's not just a flat, boring kind of color. So typically what I do with the edges that are near the rock faces, I'll take and I'll add some vegetation in there. And I'll sometimes put vegetation up on top too. And kind of do the same thing where you just kind of splotch out different different shades in there to give it some variance. And then you can go back to props, and I'll do a search for cactus. So yep, we have some cactuses here, and I'll take and hold down shift and drag those down. Now I'm going to use this to, I'm going to use this to rotate it a little bit. Can put some out here too. It's a pretty harsh transition here in shade, so I think typically what I'll do is I'll go and maybe try to find a darker color to help kind of ease the transition between those bright colors and the darker colors. You can also take and add some vegetation areas in the middle here too. Don't worry, these won't obstruct gameplay. They'll get knocked over. Now you can also use the eyedropper here by holding down the Alt key and selecting the terrain you want, and it will grab that terrain color and texture. There's also some fern props I can use. Now, if you look at it from game view, this is kind of what we've got going on so far. And we're just going to copy this style across the entire map. You'll notice in this list that there are groups of props, like say these cactus groups. You don't want to place these in the playable area because they won't obstruct the gameplay. The units will just drive right through them, but they are not flagged as what's called toppable. These small individual props are considered toppable. A unit will run over them and they will fall over, but the large groups are not. So it's going to look real weird when the vehicles drive through these large groups of props. These are intended for impassable areas. For example, like up here where the player can't reach this area, this is a good place for these types of props. I'm using some of these rock mound, these P Nature rock mound 01 large blocks to kind of make some larger formations on the tops of the edge of the cliffs here. So as you can see, I'm using this P Cactus Group 303 to kind of fill in these impassable areas on the exterior here. Here's a fun prop to sprinkle in here. It's this archway prop. This is P Rock 02 large. Okay, so I've placed a bunch of props around, and some of the more interesting props. There's this one, which is P Rock 05 large. That one's pretty cool. But I've essentially just plopped a bunch of stuff all over the place. I used those large cactuses along the edge. And now we're going to place destructible objects. These are special props that are considered server objects. So these are going to be under the Objects tab. And in the directory here, I believe they're under Props. Yes, under Props, Destructible props. Now, there's a whole bunch of them in here. You can see there's a bunch of buildings, you know, vehicles and stuff. What these are is these are structures that can be destroyed by the player. You run over them, they'll explode and stuff. And a lot of these are obviously not appropriate for what we're doing, but I think it would be really fun to use some of the more rustic looking props. There's a set of, I believe, Western props in here. Let me take a look. Search Western. Let's see what we got. Yeah, here we go. So we have a saloon. We could put a little Western scene in here somewhere. That might be kind of fun. Let's see if we've got some room for it. Probably right by the base, actually. Yeah, it's pretty tight. But let's do it anyway. We're gonna have some fun. So we could put a little Western town in here. That's a barn. We don't want that. Yeah, that's a pretty good building. All right, let's turn it around. Oops, I'm just going to use this and say 180. Yoink. Turn it around. Is there a... Oh. Okay, let's... Ooh, that's not appropriate. No. It says water tower, but it is not a water tower. Well. So I'm going to go up to color. And I'm going to set this to kind of a dark gray. Under the color, vertex color here, you said I'm going to set it to dark gray, and then we can take and just start splotching in some color on the ground there to make it look a little different than everything else around it. You can also do this with other areas in here too if you want to add some coloration to the ground, like help add some additional detail. What I find works really good is using it on some of these edges here to kind of fake some bounce lighting. That's a little too extreme. Let's try something like right here. It's really quick and easy to do this too, which is kind of fun. Okay, so we have our little western village in here. And let's see, what else can we add to this to make it more interesting? Actually, I think what might help this map is you notice that a large portion of it is kind of an unplayable region. So I think it might be better to go into the passability and take and go down to the impassable tab and or the impassable type, passability type. It's purple. And I'm just going to fill in, I'm going to actually outline this entire region here. This is going to make it so the player can't actually go into that region of the map at all. Just because there's really no point for them to be there. And then I'm going to flood fill the exterior here. Oops, it filled in. Apparently I didn't get the whole thing. Okay. Okay. All right. So that time it worked. Now, one thing to keep an eye out for is sometimes the cliff passability. Like here, you could actually, the units could actually travel through these props because the passability underneath them. If you go up here, you can make the props invisible. Let's see, where is it? There we go. You can make the props invisible. You see there's some area here where the cliff doesn't extend to the extent of the prop. If you're a perfectionist, you don't need to do this, but if you're a perfectionist, you can take and I'm going to use the eyedropper, the alt click to select this cliff tab, and then I'm going to take and make the brush much smaller and basically paint it up to this edge of the physical prop so that there's no chance that the player will move through the rock prop. Okay, so I've gone through and painted the edges as cliffs for passability. I'm going to show you a feature that is not really appropriate for this map, but it is useful in other types of maps. This is the spline feature. We're going to go to splines, and in here we have several different types of splines for this project. A good example would be, say, like the road lines. If you select that and you hold down Shift, click once, and then hold down Control, and then click a second time and a third time, it's going to draw a spline which will create a path texture. Now, obviously a road doesn't fit in here, but there's quite a few useful items in here. Like you can place down sidewalks, parking lines, and yellow road. I don't know what that is, but let's see. We've got let's see what other tracks. This might be useful. Oh. To delete these, just simply select them and delete them. Okay, so I think this map is ready for use. So I'm going to take and save it. And we have to be sure that we save the SOB file as well. So save the SOB, my custom map SOB. And now we need to update the mod. First thing we need to do is create a new mini-map image because our map looks completely different from what it did before. So we're going to go generate new preview image under tools and create the new image. And that was the select a 2048 by 2048. And we're going to go to mods and we're going to make sure we select our my custom map and we're going to add. And we're going to basically be adding the exact same map on top of itself. It should already be filled in. We're going to select the new image and then hit OK. And it should update it. And then we're going to exit the terrain editor and we're going to test it in the game. Oh, there it is. And you notice that I can now target these destructible buildings. And if you run over them with a vehicle, they will blow up. Okay, we've completed our first working map and added it to a mod. And the next video is going to cover how to add it to the Steam Workshop. I hope you had fun.